I went from being a completely broke college student to making over $1 million in profit flipping land and doing millions of dollars worth of deals at the age of 24. And when I sit here and really think about that, it's actually crazy. And there are times when I can't even believe that I'm here. There are times where I look at my bank account, I look at my investment accounts, I look at what I'm able to do, and I can't believe it. And you know, it's not that I didn't believe that I wouldn't be here. It's more that I can't believe it happened so quickly. Like when I look back, it just happened so fast. And so I'm going to show you guys and tell you guys really how I was able to do this and how, I mean, you can really do the same thing. I guess it really starts when I was younger. I mean, 5, 6, 7 years old. I probably won't sit here and tell my full life story, but maybe I will. We'll see where it goes. I knew that I didn't want to work a job from a very early age because it just didn't seem like something that was viable, like a viable path for me. I knew I wanted to be very wealthy. I knew I wanted to have a lot of money. I knew I wanted to be able to call my own shots. These are all things that I knew I had to do because I cannot be told what to do. That's one thing about me is like I cannot be told what to do. If you're telling me what to do, it's not gonna last well for you. So I knew that at a very young age, and I would see things and I was exposed to things at a very young age of like great wealth and what being in charge of your own time and being in charge of your own business can do for you. I was seeing things like that from being a very young kid, right? And I remember I had a little iPad that I got for Christmas one year, and I went on YouTube and I would Google like wealthy people, like riches. I would Google things like that, right? And for some reason, like Floyd Mayweather started to pop up, like videos of Floyd Mayweather where he would go and he has 20 cars or 30 cars or whatever it may be, and he's talking about the cars, he's talking about boxing and all these things. And so I already knew that I wanted that. And so it was really a matter of like how am I going to do that? And I remember actually telling my uncle, who is funny, he actually joined Landverse. I think 2 weeks ago he joined Landverse. I remember telling him, I want to be really rich. And I was telling him this when I was like 6, 7 years old. I want to be really rich. And he was like, you gotta be an investment maker if you're gonna be rich. If you're gonna be rich, you gotta be an investment maker or something like. He would tell me that. And so I would do research on like, okay, that doesn't really seem like something I want to do. Like, what can I do that's gonna make me really wealthy? And I would just do research and okay, should I be an athlete? Should I be a boxer? Like, how do I make a lot of money? Like, I'm telling you, this is me being like a kid thinking like this. Like, how do I do this? I realized that people that are specialized in certain talents, those people always get rich, right? They're a specialist in whatever it is they're doing. They're the best in the world at it. And so I started figuring out, okay, well, what can I be the best in the world at? What can I do to where I can be top 1% in it? Because if you're top 1% in something, odds are you're also going to be very wealthy. So that was the equation that I put together in my head, right? I played football as a kid. I was really good at football. I was really fast. So those were the two things that I was like, okay, I can do this. I can be an athlete. Like I'm a really good athlete. I excel past all these other kids. Like I stand out. When it came to swimming, I was teaching kids how to swim at like 9 years old. I was teaching other kids how to swim when I was 9 years old. I was that good at swimming to where they made me a teacher at it as a kid. So I was very athletic, and I am very athletic. So that's what I knew. Like, okay, I'm stronger, I'm faster, and I'm better than most of these kids. So that's what I got to do. And I will never forget this. There was a specific time where I was at school. I was going to KIP, and we raced. We started racing. Like all the kids were racing, and they would always play basketball. These kids would always play basketball. That was the only sport that I wasn't good at was basketball. So I just sat out. I would sit out of basketball for some reason. My genes don't call for basketball, but they call for everything else. This specific day, we were all racing, and I remember all the kids. They just started racing, and then I came out late from lunch, and I see them racing, and I was like, all right, let me line up and let me race. I start racing them. I beat every single kid. Every single kid, I beat these kids by like 20, 30 meters. And then they were like, oh, they started getting the older kids. I think I was maybe in 6th grade. They started getting all the older kids. So they started bringing the 8th graders and the 9th graders. Oh, you got to race Femi. Let's see if you can beat him. Couldn't beat me. So kids that were older than me were not beating me, and I remember saying that and thinking like, damn, I'm really good at this. And it was so, it got so big at that lunch that like pretty much everyone at the lunch had crowded around to see me racing people. And I'll never forget how that felt. Like I still remember how that felt to this day. And this was before I started running track. I hadn't started running track yet. And then I remember there was a kid specifically that like I must have done like 11 or 12 races. And there was a kid specifically that was like, oh man, Femi's going to be the next Usain Bolt. He's the next Usain Bolt. I remember that. And I was like, who is that? Like, who is Usain Bolt? I go home, I do research, I read, I watch a lot of videos. I'm like, oh, Usain Bolt's fastest man in the world. I didn't even know this at the time. Start doing research, and then I go through like all his stuff, and I start realizing like, wow, he makes a lot of money. That night, I asked my mom. I told her like, I want to run track. Please sign me up for track, right? Because I'm fast. And that really started my track career right there. I went from that to becoming a junior Olympic national champion, getting a Division I scholarship to go to college, going to state finals, breaking records. I did all that as an athlete. Going to regional championships for like the Division I regional championships. I did all that. And that was my path. Like my whole path and goal became becoming an athlete and becoming a Division I athlete, becoming a professional athlete, becoming an Olympian, and go on to make a few $1,000,000. Like I don't know that I ever thought that like, oh, I'm gonna be a guy that makes hundreds of millions of dollars from the sport. It was more like, how do I make money, like a good amount of money, so then I can go take this money and invest this money into cash flowing assets. Because at a young age, I had already done that research, and I knew that like, okay, the earned income really isn't the end all be all. What is the end all be all is when you can take a very large piece of your earned income and go invest that into things that are going to cash flow and build wealth for you over the long term. And I knew this at 16, 17 years old. So it was really just about, how do I create a lot of earned income? And in the midst of all this, I had created quite a social media presence. I had created my own clothing brand, and I had a podcast from the ages of 17 to 18 years old. Both of these things were making me money, a good amount of money too. But I didn't know how to manage it. So I would spend it on just nonsense, suits and food and just silly things that I shouldn't have been doing, right? Just spend it. I get to college, and at the time, the NIL rule wasn't a thing. Like, you didn't have NIL, so you can't make money off your name, image, and likeness. You can't do that. And I remember they called me into the office one day, and they were like, you can't keep this clothing brand going. And this was something that was making me money. My podcast was making me money. These were things that were, I was making money off. I was making some good money off both of those for an 18-year-old. And they told me to shut it down. I had to shut it down. And that was rough. That was a rough time in my life. I remember that because I had worked hard for that. So here I am trying to create this earned income. It's so funny because at the time, what seemed like a lot of money to me at that time was like, if I could just make like 400 grand a year, if I could just make 400 grand a year, and I'm laughing because it's such a low number. But if I could just make 400 grand a year, then I'm gonna have enough to where I can invest it into this apartment building or this investment or that. I'm going to have enough to where I can start building wealth. And by the time I'm, maybe 30 years old, I can probably be worth like 10 to 15 million bucks. That was my plan. That was my whole plan. And it's crazy now looking back on this because like having a change in vehicle, just how much, like 400 grand is such a small number to me now. It's nominal because of the vehicle switch, right? But at the time, this is all I focused on. And so I trained hard, I worked hard, I ate right, I was very routine. I would wake up 4 a.m. every single day. That's all I did. 4 a.m. wake up, go weights, study, track practice, eat right, go to the recovery room. That was my whole day. Wake up in the morning, go to weights, go to track practice, study, go to class. It was just very disciplined, very regimented. That's all I did. And there was a point in time where I would eat salmon and broccoli literally every single day, and I wouldn't eat anything but that, and I would only drink water. I didn't drink Gatorade. I didn't do anything else. Water and coconut water, that was it. I was very regimented. I was very disciplined. I had even calculated how many steps I needed to run, how many steps I needed to take in order to run a very specific time. I had calculated all that. And I figured out, okay, what does the exact ground force of my foot have to be in order to run this kind of time? Those are things that I dialed down into. And that's the kind of person I am too, is I'm a person that gets really obsessive over things. That's how I am. I will get so obsessive over something and I will study it to the point where nobody knows it better than me. Nobody. And I will be like just insane when it comes to like my research, my diligence, and everything like that, because I don't want anyone to be better than me at what I'm doing. That's just how I am. I want to be the 0.00001%. And that was the path I was on as an athlete. And then we got shut down because COVID happened. COVID happened and I was still training every day, still very dialed in, still doing what I was doing, but I realized, I got to sit down and like think. And I was like, okay, well, like, Femi, like, what do you really want? Do you really want to be an Olympic gold medalist? Do you really want to do that? Because if you do, okay, let's keep doing this. But if you're doing this just for the money, there are a myriad of other ways to make a lot of money and a lot more money than, because honestly, right now, I can confidently say I make a lot more than the person who won the Olympic championship last year. I can confidently say that. And so it's not even about that, but that's what I ask myself. It's like, are you doing this to make a lot of money, or are you doing this because you really want it? You really want this specifically. Like, why are you doing it? Do you want to be Olympic champ because you want to be Olympic champ, or do you want to be Olympic champ because you want to make a lot of money? And that's what I had to ask myself these questions. And I went through very dark times and very dark periods of like conversations with myself about this, because these are never questions that I asked myself. I was just on the path and I knew that I was going to get there. I knew one way or another I was going to get there and I was going to be the best. But I had to be honest with myself, and I was like, man, like, I have all the potential and all the capability in the world to go do that and go win. I do. Like, do I really want to do that? And to be honest, when I asked myself that question and I got really introspective, I didn't. I didn't want to do it. What I wanted was just to make a lot of money. That's all I wanted. I wanted to make a lot of money and be able to take care of my family. However I did that, as long as it was legal, that's what I was going to do. And when I had that conversation with myself, the switch changed. Because what I realized that I've always just been an entrepreneur. I've always been a businessman first. That's what I've always been. I remember like my dad. My dad has his own Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu business, or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Academy. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. I would ask him so many questions about his business as a kid. So many questions. Like, okay, well, how many students do you need to do to make this amount of money a month? How many, like, I was asking him about churn rate as a kid. I was asking my dad about a churn rate of his academy as a kid. And so that's what I cared about, was business and building that. That's what I cared about. And my whole goal was to run track and use track as a vehicle for business. That's what my goal was. And so when I realized that, I was like, okay, well, in the midst of this COVID time, I'm still going to train, because this is all I know. I don't know anything else but to train. So I was still training hard and I was still doing my thing. But I also started doing a lot of research on online business, online money. Okay, where can I go from here? So I tried Amazon. I tried to do that. I set everything up. I got the inventory from China. We were doing blue light glasses. I was doing blue light blocking glasses. I set everything up, and it worked a little bit, but it wasn't for me. And then I remember my dad kept telling me about these real estate webinars. He was like, you should really check these out. You can kind of buy real estate with no money down. And at first I was just kind of like, nah, I don't really care about that. Like, I'm going to do this Amazon thing. Like, I'm just going to figure this out. And then one night I remember it was like, during COVID, like we were all just like watching movies and hanging out. And so one night, it was like maybe 2:30, 3 a.m. I just clicked on what he sent me and I watched it. And I watched all the way through it. And I was like, huh. It was like my eyes just opened up. I was like, that's really interesting. So you're making $15K signing a contract, $10K signing a contract. And I went on YouTube and I just started researching real estate, like wholesale real estate, assigning contracts. I started researching that. How do I do this? And then I just took action. I took action. I pulled a list. I pulled a absentee owner list and I cold called it, and I was cold calling old listings that had been on the market for a while, and I just kept cold calling. And then I got my first couple deals. I made money, and I was like, "Oh, this works like a charm." So then what I did is start building up a buyer's list. So I started building up a buyer's list because I realized that a lot of people got deals under contract, but then they didn't know where to offload them to, where to dispo them. So I started doing that. I started building up a buyer's list, like a really, really good buyer's list of people with a lot of capital wanting to buy houses in specific areas. That's what I started doing. And I had a buyer's list of, I mean, a lot of people. I don't remember the exact number, but it was a lot of people. It was over 40 buyers that I had, where I could just like boom, 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 boom. So I had a lot of people bringing me deals. So honestly, this was working like a charm, and I was making money, and I was doing my thing, and I was traveling and enjoying my life at 20, 21 years old. Like very much so enjoying my life. But there was a series of, I remember this very distinctly because I was so stressed out. I don't think I've been this stressed out since this happened. Where I got cut out of a few deals. And so what guys would do is, we would do a couple deals together, and they would figure out who my buyers were, and they'd go around me and go talk to that buyer and, get a deal done with the buyer and basically cut me out. And yeah, it was tough. It was really rough, and it happened over the course of like 2 weeks. I remember this, and it happened a few times. And I was honestly just jaded. I just became jaded. I was like, bro, fuck this. I don't want to deal with this anymore. And yeah, I'm making money, and yeah, that's great, but I don't want to. I don't want to deal with this. And so I started thinking like, okay, I think the reason why I'm dealing with this is because I don't have enough control over my deals. Like, okay, yeah, I'm pushing paper, but I don't have any control over this really. Like, I only really have one exit strategy. I'm only doing one thing. So how can I have more control over my deals? And I remember saying that out loud. I was in Cancun. I was in Cancun with my family. I took my whole family to Cancun, and I was like, how do I just get more control over these damn deals? That's what I was thinking about. And I kid you not, I said that, and maybe like 3 hours later, I saw a video about land flipping. 3 hours later, I saw a video about land flipping, and I was like, huh. And I think the title was something like, how we made. It was like how we made like 200K in a month flipping land without using our own money, something like that. And I was like, what? And then I saw another title. It was like how we made X amount of dollars on 60 acres in rural whatever. These were the kind of titles I was seeing. I was like, what is this? And I just dove so deep on it, like so deep. I just dove on it and watching videos, like video after video after video. I ended up buying a course, educating myself on it, and sending the mail, doing what I had to do, having the conversations, and eventually I got my first deal. And the feeling of that was crazy because we acquired the deal, we listed it on the market, and a few hours later there was an offer and we had closed it like 2 weeks later. It closed so fast, and I think we made over $50,000 on that first deal. And I just remember being like, man, like this is where it's at. That was my moment of like I know that I have something here, right? I knew I had something. And so I just doubled down on it. Sending the mail, sending the mail, sending the mail, having the conversation, sending the mail. Uh I mean, at the height of doing this, we were sending out about 40,000 mailers a month. Like, and just crushing it. Left and right, crushing it, closing deals, listing deals sell quickly, like crushing it. Um And when I say at the height, don't get it wrong. I'm still sending out mail. I'm still sending out texts and everything like that. I'm just not sending out as much mail now just because I fund a lot of deals now and I have a lot of deal flow from text, from mail, everything. I just have a lot of
deal flow, and so it doesn't really make sense for me to send that much mail right now.
And this whole time too, I wasn't on social media. I wasn't like promoting what I did. I wasn't talking about it really. All I was doing was closing deals, making smart investments. Closing deals, making smart investments. Closing deals. That's all I was doing. And I was just focused on that and traveling with my wife. That's all I was doing. Like all I ever wanted to do, honestly, was just be able to provide for my family and be able to like for my wife to not have to work if she doesn't want to and to kind of choose what she wants to do and to not make decisions based upon we don't have money for this and that and that's the position I built myself to and that's all I ever wanted to where if my mother wants to go somewhere I can tell her here's money for it or I'll pay it for it or I'll take care of it for you. That's all I wanted and that's what I can do now and truthfully I'm blessed that I found this vehicle. I'm blessed that I found land and I'm blessed that I've become really good at it and so good at it to the point where I can show anyone how to also become really good at it and how to make a lot of money with it and really change their financial lives. I just became really obsessed with doing deals and doing large deals and figuring out how do you talk to people and how do you communicate with people in a way that allows you to get more deals under contract, get more deals sold. Like that's what I've become a black belt in that just because of the fact that I've practiced it so many times, and it made me rich. Like I don't really know what else to say about that. Like the area that I live in now, I literally remember a couple years ago saying to my wife that like we gotta come here and we gotta live in this area, and now we live here, and it's crazy. Like all of it is crazy, and it's crazy how fast it happened. And I guess the reason why I made this video in the first place is because I wanted to show you that really like anyone that's successful is a person. There's nothing special about it but the work that you put in and the vehicle that you're in. You got to be in the right vehicle and you have to bust your ass in that vehicle and you have to really have some guidance because I've had a lot of guidance from a lot of really good people and I've been blessed by that. I've been absolutely blessed by that to where there's people I can sit down with and ask like, hey, well, I want to get to this level. Like, how do I get to this level? This was from when I was, you know, at zero, asking, how do I just get to like 250K a year? And then at that point, okay, how do I get to a million? Then, okay, now I'm at a million. How do I get to 10 million? Okay, then I get to 10 million. Like, those are people that there are people that I can call on like that. And so, really, just having people around you that are doing a lot better than you at what you want to do, making more money than you. I surround myself with guys that are making 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 million. That's what I surround myself with because that's where I'm going. I don't want to be the richest person in the room. You want to be around people that are going to help you elevate. Because if you are the brokest person in the room, that's actually a great thing. Even if you're already making a lot of money, it's a great thing to be the brokest person in the room and the person that knows the least. That's the room I want to be in. I don't want to be in the room where I'm like, oh, Femi, oh man, I don't want to be in that room because that doesn't do anything for me. I want to continuously elevate. My whole goal and mission now is to, one, educate people just how I was educated and empower people with the knowledge that they can go make $500,000 a year from this vehicle or more if they so choose to. Because anyone that watches my content, like even if you're watching my free content's enough for you to make multiple six figures. It is, if you pay attention to what I'm saying. But build a I really want to build a power structure of people who just make a lot of money, do very well, and live their life as they see fit. And I'm already building that. I already have guys that have come through the program and made a lot of money. And that's a beautiful thing. So really like my goal, I guess for the next few years is to really build out Landverse, create millionaires, create people who are highly successful, create people who live their lives by design. That's my whole goal and journey right now. And to continue to do deals, continue to fund deals, continue my land flipping business, and long may all of this carry on. And really the biggest thing like outside of business now is just being a dad and being a husband. Those are the two things that those are the two things that I'm most excited about as my journey continues, and just getting closer to God, and getting closer to Jesus Christ. Really, those are the two things that I mean. Those are the three things that I really just focus my life on and care about, and just building, continuing to build my life by design. And I've been very blessed, and I have a great amount of gratitude for how my life has gone at such a young age of 24, going on 25. And I make these videos to show that anything really is possible, and the things that you want for yourself are attainable if you just choose to have it. If you just choose to do the things that are required of you to get it. One thing that remains consistent that I've always had is the drive. And if you don't have the drive, you're not going to go anywhere. Imagine getting into this car right here, right? I get into this car, I sit here, and I don't do anything with it. A vehicle is nothing if you don't have the drive. You got to have the drive. And that's one thing that's been consistent in all of my life, is that I've always been so driven and so hungry to make sure that I have what I want to have, and I never blame it on anyone else. You can't blame it on anyone else. It's you. You're the only one that can do the things that you want to do for yourself. Nobody else can do it, and nobody else really cares. The world's very mean, and nobody really cares about you. That's the truth. And so, if you want to build, grow, scale your business to the next level, and you have the drive, you're ready to build, you're ready to grow, then this is the business model for you. Then you want to learn how to flip land. You want to build a land flipping business because you know that if you do that, it's going to give you the power to go where you want to go, to be able to travel the world, to be able to see things that most people can't see, to be in the top 1%. This is your vehicle and your opportunity to do that. You just got to have the drive to get there.